You've been comparing yourself to her for months, scrolling her photos, studying her face, wondering what she has that you don't. I'm about to tell you something that's going to destroy you and save you. Ready? She doesn't have anything you don't. She just asked for less, and you let her win by asking for more. But here's what you don't know yet. Here's what kept you awake every night since they left. You were 9 years old the first time. Someone made you feel replaceable, and you've been performing ever since. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will rewrite everything you thought you knew about this pain. It wasn't that you lost them. It wasn't even that they chose her. It was something you've been running from since the day they left. They'd already made the choice long before they said goodbye. You were auditioning for a role that was never yours, fighting for a love they'd already given away. They didn't leave you for her. They left you while pretending you still had a chance. And here's what you've been avoiding. They knew she was there from the beginning. Maybe they didn't know her name yet. Maybe they hadn't touched her yet, but they felt it. The pull toward someone easier, someone who didn't ask them to grow, someone who let them stay exactly who they were, even if who they were was empty. And instead of telling you the truth, they kept you close enough to feel chosen, while they figured out if she was worth the risk. You weren't their partner. You were their backup plan. But the real betrayal wasn't what they did. The real betrayal was what you did to yourself while you waited. You became obsessed with her, studied her like a blueprint, scrolled her photos looking for the flaw that would prove you were still enough. You didn't hate her. You hated that you weren't her. And that hatred didn't come from her. It came from them. Because they made you believe that love was something you had to earn by being different. Close your eyes, you're 9 years old again. Can you see it? Can you feel what it felt like to realize, I'm not the one they choose? Maybe it was a parent who loved your sibling more visibly. Maybe it was a friend who found someone better and disappeared. Maybe it was someone you admired who looked past you, like you were invisible. You learned early that love is competitive, that your value is determined by how you measure up, that if someone chooses another person, it's because you weren't good enough to keep them. So you started performing. You became the person you thought people wanted. You gave more, tried harder, bent further, hoping that if you just did enough, you'd finally be the one they stayed for. But you never were. You weren't loving them. You were competing for a trophy that would prove you were worth keeping, and that's when the truth revealed itself. Not about her, about the wound you've been carrying since you were 9 years old, the wound that made you believe being chosen was the only proof you mattered, the one that whispered, if they picked someone else, it's because I'm not enough. If I was better, they would have stayed. Maybe I'll always be the second choice. You didn't create that wound. They just confirmed it. So here's the truth. You've been avoiding the one that's going to hurt more than anything I've said so far. You weren't afraid she was better. You were afraid that no amount of being good enough would ever make you worthy of being chosen. That's why the comparison destroyed you. That's why you obsessed over every difference. That's why you convinced yourself it was about her face, her body, her ease. Because accepting the truth would have meant facing something unbearable. The problem was never you. The problem was that you were trying to earn love from someone who had already decided you weren't the one. And then something broke. Not your heart that had already shattered. Something deeper, the story you'd been telling yourself since you were 9 years old. The one that said, if they choose someone else, it's because you're not enough. That story, it finally died. The shift didn't happen when they made it official. Not when you saw the photos. Not when they finally stopped pretending. It happened when you asked yourself a question you'd been running from since you were 9. Not, what does she have that I don't, but why did I stay with someone who made me feel like I had to compete? When you stopped analyzing her and started looking at the relationship itself. When you realized the person you betrayed wasn't them, it was you. You stopped competing the day you realized she didn't win. There was never a competition. You were fighting for someone who had already chosen. And here's what you learned in the aftermath. They didn't choose her because she was better. They chose her because you asked them to show up, and she didn't. You wanted depth. She wanted surface. You challenged them to grow. She let them stagnate. You held up a mirror. She let them hide. You asked for emotional honesty. She accepted emotional unavailability. And they weren't ready for you. So they picked the one who let them stay small. You don't hate her anymore. You don't even hate them. Because the anger dissolved the moment you realized they didn't choose her because she was more lovable. They chose her because she didn't ask them to face themselves. And she'll learn what you learned. That being chosen by someone who can't choose themselves is not a victory. That a love built on avoidance is just a countdown to the moment they meet someone who makes them feel what you made them feel, terrified. You don't need to warn her, she'll find out. You're rebuilding now, not into who you were, into someone you've never been before. Someone who knows. Love is not a competition. Worth is not determined by who stays. And you will never again measure yourself against another woman to prove you deserve to be chosen. You are choosing yourself. Every single day, you are releasing the belief that being picked is what makes you valuable. You are honoring the truth that you were never the problem. You are refusing to shrink yourself to fit someone's fear of depth. And if they can't meet you there, you walk, because you finally understand. Being chosen by someone who's afraid of you is not love. Being rejected by someone who couldn't handle you was protection. So here's the final truth. The one you'll carry forward. You were never less than her. You were just more than they could hold. They didn't choose her because she was better. They chose her because you were too much for someone who wanted to stay empty. And now you know, you don't need to be chosen. You need to choose yourself. And wait for someone brave enough to choose you back. If this landed in your chest like it was written for you, drop a blue heart in the comments. And if you're still comparing yourself to her right now, I need you to hear this one more time. You were never less than her. You were just more than they could hold. Stop trying to shrink yourself to fit someone's fear of depth. You don't need to be chosen. You need to choose yourself. And wait for someone brave enough to choose you back. I'll see you in the next one.